but the Parawings, the first POW, maybe, is that like your baby, or is that like a group thing? How many people worked on that?
One of the challenge of the Parawing is basically to be able to manage the power between standing on your board to riding full speed in really strong wind. And this goes through playing with the angle of attack and the camber of your wing. But if you really want to head up to the extremity of the lake, or if you really want to cruise or use smaller foil and really enjoy and glide up foiling, I would strongly recommend a ZAP. Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by SurfEars. SurfEars are not only important if you foil in cold water to prevent exostosis, SurfEars are also super important if you foil in dirty waters, especially now as it gets warmer. The water that's in your ear canal can actually cause infection. So you want to protect yourself, use SurfEars that keeps the water out, lets sound through, which is important. Stay healthy, get your SurfEars in the link in the description. Now let's begin the episode.
This is Up on Foil, a podcast for everyone flying just above the surface. Pump, carve, soar, let's foil!
This episode is also sponsored by Foilsessions, but more on that later.
Welcome to episode number 96 of Up on Foil, the podcast where we talk all about foiling. And let me introduce us real quick. I'm Matt. I'm an intermediate foiler, I would say. And with me is Théo de Ramcourt, kite foil world champion, European champion, and he works in R&D for Flysurfer. And we're going to talk about especially the Parawings, but also like the R&D that you do for Flysurfer. Thank you so much, Théo, that you take your time to chat with me. Is there anything you want to add right away?
No, yeah. Hi, Matt. Thank you very much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this exchange together. And yeah, I'm listening and throwing your question and talk.
Perfect. Just maybe a first little question to warm up. When was your last session on the water? Do you have a lot of time to get on the water, or is it a lot on computer as well?
So I was on the water pretty much 12 hours ago. I'm at the moment on a test trip, which are usually really busy weeks with spending a lot of time testing stuff on different projects. So yeah, I was on the water yesterday at 8:30 p.m. We are lucky enough to have really long days and good wind. So yeah.
Where are you?
I'm in France, in Lake Serponçon. So I basically live in Hyères, south of France. It's quite a famous spot. The kite and windsurfing spot is called Almanar. So that's where I live now. And the week didn't look too windy, so I decided to go a little bit more inland and connect with my German colleagues from Flysurfer. So we are here for the week all together testing a few different projects, and yeah, I'm in the mountains right now.
Very nice. So depending on how the wind is, you actually have a different spot where you work. That sounds really cool, but also kind of exhausting. How do you cope like with your energy levels? Is that not a problem?
It is an actual challenge. So basically, one of our challenge designing is to be able to put the prototypes in an environment that we project our customer to use them, or sometime to put the prototype in even more rough environments to be able to test some of the different aspects of the flying characteristic. And this is usually having to adapt last minute because you get specific sizes on a D-Day and you really want to answer all of your questions as soon as possible, and therefore you have to adapt and either go somewhere, either drive somewhere, fly somewhere. I'm lucky enough that where I live is a really good wind place. But sometime like this week you have to adapt and move on to be able to catch the right conditions. So yeah, it's a little bit tiring. But I'm kind of used to it. I was competing for more than 10 years, traveling around event sites, and yeah, that's a little bit part of my lifestyle now.
That is, I mean, it sounds super cool. It comes with its challenges, as you just said. How long have you been with Flysurfer? Have you worked there when you were just competing? Was that like a gradual, like start in the company, or how did that start?
So basically, I was formula kiting for a really long time, starting 2014, 15. And in 2016, I got the chance to connect with some of the Flysurfer guys back then, the French importer, and then Armin Harrich, one of the founder from the company, on a race in China. And this is where I basically showed my motivation to commit on making my race kites faster back then. And it started as me having the opportunity to connect with some of the brain behind the equipment I was using that would allow me to have a better tool to perform. And so in September 2016, almost 10 years ago now, I got my first contact with the Flysurfer. I went on a trip directly, and then slowly, step by step, I got more involved in the race projects as a test pilot back then, and then I could support a little bit more Benny, which is the main kite designer, and then I got more responsibilities. I could support him on more and more aspects of it until the points where I decided to stop competing full time. And yeah, this is a childhood dream, being able to develop, just the dream kites. Now we have even new challenges with evolution of water sports with parawinging, winging, and I now have my own projects, which I'm trying to project my vision through, and that's a little bit of my path with Flysurfer.
That is really nice. Like, did you study something in that area, or was that all coming organically? Like, you raised and then you learned about that stuff another way, or did you go to school for that?
Yeah, so basically, I was lucky enough that when I ended up my high school education, kite foiling was not Olympic then. So making a living or having a profession in the kiting industry was not really an option back then. So I went to university. I studied physics. I got a master's degree in ocean sciences on the physics side of it, which brought me a good education on how to answer and find technical solutions to problems. But then, I learned most of my skills that I have today, testing equipment and chatting and just committing to innovate.
That's really nice. I got your contact from Stan Keusch. That's how we got introduced, and he told me a lot about like you helping or making these Parawings. And I want to start with the Parawings because that's usually where I'm at. I used the wings as well a couple of weeks or even months ago now. We're going to talk about those as well. But the Parawings, the first POW, maybe, is that like your baby, or is that like a group thing? How many people worked on that?
So basically, we work as a team at Flysurfer. We are 4 developers in the R&D team. And few months ago now, the Parawing thing came up and became quite of a thing online first. And then we got quite a lot of questions about why we don't provide one. And we got a lot of questions about it and a lot of demand. So we started to to think about it and to look at the problem, let's say. But we were really busy back then, and at what point when I saw everything that was being released back then, I really thought that we could do something really, really good because of all of our kiting background, and basically all of the technologies used in Parawinging are quite close to foil kites and paragliders, and this is where we are really strong, or we were really strong historically. And so I kind of pushed a little bit and agreed that I could take over this on the technical aspect, and that we should really step in. And this is why we started kind of slowly with only 3 sizes on the first power generations. We realized back then that Parawinging wouldn't only be for people people wanting a downwind tool, and we really wanted to make the Power One a more freeride tool and more universal, with really good wind range, especially the low end. And and then we just moved forward. The Power One was a good success. We got a lot of positivity out of it, and then we decided to move forward to the second generation of Parawing, and that's how we ended up with 2 models, including a double skin model, which is also one of the technology we use on foil kites for a really long time, and that showed a lot of goods.
I want to get
Yeah.
the new models soon, but maybe just a couple of questions to the POW one, because that's what I used. I think I used the 5, the 4, and the 2.5, right? And then you have even a smaller one. And you have,
1.7.
yeah, and you have this special bar, for example. That's what stands out. Like when you take it out of the bag, that's like, wow, the bar is different, and you got that pulley system. And maybe you can explain to me or also the audience what that pulley was for.
Have you ever recorded a session with a foiling app and then forgot to turn it off on your way home? Well, now with Foilsessions, you can actually crop your session, meaning that you can take out the car ride and just focus on your foiling, which is amazing. Try Foilsessions for free with the link below.
Basically, to talk about the bar in general, one of my vision back then was that Parawinging was the first water sports that doesn't require the symmetric part of our brain, and I really believe that this could bring more people into water sports, because you only need one hand and you can hand it over to a 3 years old or 70 years old on the beach, and they will be able to steer it within 5 minutes. And therefore I thought the handle as a joystick, and a little bit like the Wii back then, where you would play golf at home, and that's how we ended up with the J handle, where you basically it's really intuitive to steer with one hand. The position of the hand is quite driven by the shape, and you have it's really orientated for one hand steering, let's say. And the pulley, one of the challenge of the Parawing is basically to be able to manage the power between standing on your board to riding full speed in really strong wind. And this goes through playing with the angle of attack and the camber of your wing. And the pulley was one of the solution we found to have a better wind range and power range through the handle.
So how does the pulley affect the form of the Parawing then?
So basically, the pulley was connected to the beeline, which is the first moving part close to the leading edge. And the pulley allowed us to play with the camber at the front of the wing when you were sheeting in or depowering, to be able to have some camber when you really sheeted in, to have as much camber as possible with the angle of attack, but also when you would depower your Parawing to go on a straight line, that the bee would play in a range of having the good tension to hold the shape of the single skin structure, but also allow the Parawing to bring some power out of it. Yeah.
What was also really noticeable was the length of the lines. And you just said that you wanted to have a good low end. So I assume that was also due to that you chose the longer lines.
Yeah, exactly. We really believe that the size to power ratio was really important, and we really wanted to make a powerful tool as much as powerful with the least amount of fabric, basically. And the line length plays a big role in the structural aspect of the powering of the structure, and therefore we decided to allow ourselves, like, design when you're designing a product, it's all about making compromises, and we decided to allow ourselves for a little bit longer lines, but have really precise parameters on, like, fixed parameters on other spots of the design, so we could have a quite flat profile and quite good tension and light wind and powerful design thanks to the line length. And back then we realized that the people that would use them for downwinding would anyway know how to do it, kind of, and it would be acceptable that they would fold the line 2 times, for example, on the bigger sizes, and the 2.5, the 1.7, which were back then the wings which you would use in 20 plus knots, would be stashable within one movement. So yeah, that was a little bit of the approach and the projection.
That
And
makes a
you
lot of
also have
sense.
to think that it was a lot of learning back then. We arrived with this vision and approach, and in the meantime we've learned a lot, and that's how it allowed ourselves to move forward with the line lengths and play with other parameters.
I'm curious, speaking of R&D, because sometimes I imagine people just sitting at their computer and making calculations. Sometimes I imagine them being like at a beach and just like starting with I don't know, 5-meter lines and then just half them and find that perfect length. How do you go about something like this? Like, do you do calculations first, or you just go with your gut feeling and then change at a beach or on a week of R&D retreat?
So it's a bit of a mix. The job as a designer is really split between time behind the computer, which can last for weeks, let's say, and then you receive the sample and you can spend days and days on the beach testing out, trimming. You would always jump back on the laptop to calculate some stuff that you can implement and modify. You can also resew on the actual canopies that you have into your hands. But in general, you basically start somewhere from a reference point, and then you try to optimize and push in the direction where you would likely have your final design and where the final vision you have is bringing you, kind of. So you don't just go on the beach and make random knots. You know the weaknesses and the strengths of your design. You know, or you learn where it stands compared to all of the experiments you've made in the past, where it stands compared to where you want the design to be at the end. And that's where you start working from, and you try to optimize this, but then you lose a little bit there. So you move like this and you learn, and you identify also parameters like the line length, for example. It's affecting this amount of percentage in this regard, in this flying characteristic, where I really, for example, want to keep big strength. So I will not play in this domain, and I would rather play with angle of attack or whatever other parametric.
If you are out and about and testing, do you sometimes have time to like risk a little something or play with it, like going super long or super short just to see how it behaves?
That's a little bit what we made at the beginning. The beginning of development process is quite of rough experimentals. Like you really want to answer, questions, and you want to learn kind of. So there you go a little bit extreme, and the further you evolve, the thinner you play, and in the end, you know, in the testing process, you learn a lot, and then you figure out that playing within 30 cm of bridle length is not really worth it, because if you think of a target at the beginning, you will throw darts that will end up at all of the corners of the target, and with testing and stuff, you get closer and closer to the target. And the target for me is the vision of the dream solution that you can provide to customers, or to even for myself. For example, when I'm going out parawinging, I identify all of the needs and what I would like the wing to do, and make my life easier in the overall experience. This is the heart of the targets, and at the beginning I will throw darts which will end up quite far, and then I just get closer and closer.
Do you
And
remember
then
the
the
longest
center
line
is
you had?
shifting. And the longest we've had were basically the par one or anything close to it. And from this, we really got the feedback that the line length was really important for a lot of people, for the market. Quite a big part of the market put some weight on having short lines. And this is where we decided to just push and do our best to reduce the line length. And in the end, we ended up reducing quite a lot on the POW2 without losing so much low end. And
Just one last question about the line length. I've seen online, there's this guy who makes this adjustments, which is kind of I don't know how you call it, like the system where when you go up the lines, that you actually pull the lines in already, so you reduce the length of the line. Have you seen that as well? Is that something worth pursuing? Too much friction? What do you think about that?
So this is something which I tried last summer, actually. And I thought, because in the end, one of my dream vision would be to have a kite that's flying, with having the line lengths allow for movement. And in the light wind, for example, you can always keep moving the wing.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can loop, you can generate a lot of power. And the dream would be to be able to shrink these lines once you're up foiling, because you don't need so much power. You just want to have something as compact as possible for packing. And one of the solutions was basically to have long bridles that you could split the ratio for packing. And there goes with having a pulley, which ended up working quite nice, but the recovery rate was not the greatest. And I think when you're packing down, it's also so nice and convenient when you're not stressed about just throwing in a rush when you're losing the flight, that the wing is inflating and you can recover from it. Where with this pulley, I found myself having struggle with lines tangle, and I would crash and have to sit and sort out my lines. And this is why we pushed for real short lines. And this is something which I really experiment on the double skin, especially because of, once again, trying to push all of the parameter into having the best playing characteristic as possible, and low end and access to power. But so far, once again, long story short, I was not really happy with the recovery rates that I would find myself so many times sitting on my board having to sort out this
This mess,
winder,
this
whatever.
spaghetti mess.
Yeah.
So collapsing it was easy, but redeploying was a problem, basically.
Exactly. Collapsing
Okay.
it, yeah, it was quite efficient. It always depends on how big of a section of the wing you want to collapse. But it worked really nice. But the main limit I found with this system was basically the recovery.
When you have a Parawing or you have a new idea or an iteration of your current model, Flysurfer is based in Germany, right?
Yeah.
Can you make prototypes there, or do you have to like order it from China as well? How long does it take for you to get the next iteration of a Parawing, for example?
So to give you a little overview of the process, the office is based in Germany with all of the office part of it. We are a few designers abroad. The tube kite designer is located in Cape Town, South Africa. I'm located in south of France, and I design everything from home. And then I send all of the pattern and the manufacturing instructions to our factory. The Parawing factory is located in Vietnam. And from that point, depending on the serial production and stuff like this, they will cut my pattern and they will sew everything. Everything gets shipped to Germany, and then from there, either they ship me the sample directly, either we meet somewhere with some of my colleagues, but we always try to make it convenient to work on either different sizes, either different projects. But yeah, that's a little bit how it works. And in Germany, they have a workshop where they can do bridles, they can resew, they can fix. They don't really sew wings from scratch because it's a really long process, and they're really busy with repairing and doing services on kites, paragliders, repairs. But we can rework. I also have a swing machine back home, which allow me to rework some of the canopies. I can splice lines myself. But yeah, the core of the samples are made in our factory, which also allows us to train a little bit the work team, because this is a challenge that having the serial production matching our development process is really important. And it's, from my experience, not really good when from one day to the other you send them instructions and they have to figure things out, where in the development process we also learn together. We go visit the factory every now and then. We can improve the process, and it's for me a really sustainable process to work also closely with the team there.
So it takes quite a while to get your new samples then, even though Germany and France are close, but to get a new sample, it takes a while. I can imagine that's also sometimes difficult to wait for something, but you're working on different things as we've established. How was your first few sessions on a Parawing? Because when these Parawings came out, we were all noobs. Of course, you were better than others, but still, you probably needed some time to get used to the Parawing. How were your first sessions? And the follow-up question: did you use your like test Parawing to start? Did you use one that was already out there? And how difficult was it to distract, or how difficult was it to decide if it's your inability or the Parawing's fault? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a really interesting question. The first time and the first test I made with Parawinging was basically modifying one of our single skin kites, the Peak. So that's then something which we've seen online quite a bit, that people were modifying single skin kites which are made for snow kiting into a Parawing. And this is how I started with my first Parawing session. Then from this first experience, I moved forward with actual Parawing samples. It was a really nice process, kind of, because I was also learning, and we, like, how to say, that was the best way, projecting myself as the best use case and the best potential users of the end product, because no one knew how to do it. Everything had to be figured out. Also, same goes on the foils and board shapes. I was still using quite short and wide boards with really, really small foils, low aspect. I mean, not crazy low, but still far to the foils I'm using now. And in the meantime, I'm lucky enough that there is a strong community where I live, downwind community where I live. So I got the chance to put my hands on the first model released, which were the NZs, the BRM. I could see a little bit of where their serial product stands. It's also really nice to look at different products because you figure out how the other designers found solutions to problems, kind of. And yeah, that was it. And then I just used my prototypes. So I learned with them. I fight, like, Parawinging itself is quite of a process to learn. Developing a single skin structure is also quite of a process, and combining both together was an interesting process until we reach a certain point, and then I had to kind of face the same challenge with the double skin, which was also really good learning. But yeah, I think once again it was kind of a good opportunity, because I found myself in a beginner position, and even if all of my years of foiling gave me, like, yeah, I was a little bit
You had an advantage.
gifted on the foil
Surely.
side.
Yeah.
But all of the technique to start, the low end challenges you're facing, like, yeah, all of this aspect I had to figure out, and found myself as a beginner, which was quite interesting.
Let's like move, because when we know now that this Parawing game, as it's still very new, the pace at it's going, it's incredible. Like, new Parawings coming out sometimes twice a year from the same brand, which is sick. So maybe let's talk about that POW2. And I remember the POW1, there are a few things that I would have wanted to change. You probably did as well. And when you were finished with the POW1, you probably were already working on the next one. Like, for example, the line colors, we talked about the length. What else did you change? What else is different with the POW2?
So basically, you need, it's always a good reminder to project yourself. When a product is released from a company on the market, it was usually validated a few months before, or at least that's how we work at Flysurfer. So even in the time from validating all of the serial specs to entering the market, we have a few weeks, months to think, to try stuff, and we already have so many new ideas when we send off serial specs of a product. And so one really positive of releasing a first product like this is receiving all of the market feedback, which was really interesting. And basically, that's how we identify the weaknesses and the strengths of of the solution we provided to the market for Parawinging. And then the challenge became, first, to get closer to my dream vision of Parawinging, and second, to fulfill all of the feedback and needs from our customers and of the community in general. And this is how I started already last year, quite early, to work on the POW2 to get to where we are after validating everything earlier this year.
So what is different with the POW2? We don't have the B lines attached to the bar, right? And the bar is also smaller.
Yeah. So basically, the overall vision of the POW1 was to provide one solution for both freeride, right and left, but also ocean surf, but also downwind paddle kind of. So the idea was to make a polyvalent combo or package where for the POW2 we decided to split the Parawing range into two models, and we decided to bring the POW2 into a more beginner and downwind orientated tool. So we reduced the size of the overall package. So the handle, we reduced the size of the handle, we reduced the line length. We got rid of this pulley attachment point on the handle by having a bowline mixer, which is also a really interesting solution to be able to play with the profile shape. So yeah, that was the main focus on the POW. We also played with the wind range. The low end for us is the really important feature on a Parawing, because once again you just want to have the smallest package once packed down, but the high end and the control and the way this single skin structure keeps its shape over a lot of wind and completely depowered with not many tension in the line is quite of a challenge. And this is how we ended up, with the actual POW2 design.
Yeah. Obviously, it is difficult because I still get to test new Parawings that just came out that still collapse when I depower them, which for me is an absolute no-go, but it still happens. So yeah, it appears to be really difficult. Now, the single skin, you said more downwind orientated, but of course, people still want to go upwind. Does it maybe not go as well upwind as the POW1? Does it still go upwind well?
Yeah. So to bounce back on what you just said, I think there are a few points to keep in mind about the actual industry shape and industry approach. Is that a lot of companies, they just rushed on this new Parawing thing that brings a lot of interest everywhere, but Parawinging refers different technological approach compared to tube kites or inflatable wings or stuff like this. And we've seen a lot of rushed projects being released, and this is how you end up with the serial products which don't accept depower or stuff like this. Another point goes with the material choices. The materials used in the Parawing are different than inflatable wings or inflatable kites. They are closer to what we use on foil kite, and this requires also some experience. So in terms of durability, this is also something to keep in mind when you have a wide picture of the market options. And I can't remember your question. Sorry, Matt.
No, that's okay. You know, just the upline ability, the upwind ability, because because I see when you say we listen to what our customers said, but they're probably like questions or requests going in all direction. Like make it easier, better low end, but make it even better high end. So you probably need to provide for everyone. And you said you orientated on the downwind first of all. But does it still go upwind? That was, I think, the second part of my question.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So first, there are different requests, but that's something I really figure out, which is different from my background with kite development or wing development, is that there are a lot of different use cases through the different continents. If I talk to an American Parawinger, if I talk to a French Parawinger, if I talk to the Swiss or the German that use the Parawing on lakes, there are really, really different expectation and vision on how to use this tool. And basically, once again, we really stayed on what's our dream vision, what do we want when we provide this technical solution to the Parawinging users. And for me, the upwind is a no-go. When I see some of the models released this year, which are basically, a piece of fabric which only holds water starts and you can barely go upwind. For us, this is not really an option because our customer, we don't want to be downwind purists, we don't sell downwind boards, we don't sell downwind foils. We really want to provide to the market polyvalent tools. And I always kind of think about how if my dad would have to buy into one model that I'm designing. And for me, the upwind is for sure a really, really important feature. The Parawing, for a very long time, I was calling them the ski lifts. They basically allow you to get to the start point of the downwind run. This is also how we use them in south of France. There are quite a strong community of guys downwinding with the paddle, but most of the guy downwinding in the wave in the bay where I live, they would have their hands free and have the Parawing on their waist. So yeah, the upwind was really something we kept in mind, and the behavior of the wing in the gust and how slidey the Parawing evolved in the power zone was something really important. Yeah, that's something I
So,
put a lot of focus on.
so a pairing for your dad, that's really fun. The POW2 probably being something for like beginners to intermediates, as you've said. And there's the ZAP as well, the double skin pairing.
Yeah.
And I haven't had any good experiences with double skins so far. Last week, the episode of last week is with Sam Loader from PPC. He also announced double skin pairing with his trimming function. Maybe you can talk about your double skin, who it is for, if I, as an intermediate rider, would even be able to ride it, or who were you targeting?
We are targeting people that wants to ride upwind and to do like long downwinders first. So the upwind abilities in terms of angle and speed is much improved compared to any single skin structure. We are also targeting people that just want to cruise on their Parawing and not specifically pack. The strengths of this design and technology, if it's well developed, would be the wind range and the stability of the profile under really high load. Like basically on the double skin, the stronger and the faster you go, the more potential you feel from the wing. So when you're static on the beach, for example, the handling is not as intuitive and defined as a single skin. It's slightly more blurry. So for example, for a guy that never fly any Parawing, I would rather give him and hand him over a Paw because you feel directly connected. You can steer it really easily. The handling aspect of it is just so intuitive. Where on a double skin, the handling is a little bit different. It requires a little bit more precision. But when you're up foiling, it just slide. It feels light. It's super precise, so it's really fun and playful. It really slides on the edge of the wind window, so you are not fighting against a pull forward, but it's really sliding toward the wind axis, which is the main strength. One of the limitation of such technology is also that you can find yourself with your wing under the water, and the single skin is just so easy. You just grab one extremity, you lift it up, and there is nothing. With the double skin, it can get water inside, and it's really easy to remove. You just need to put the leading edge up and have the air inflating it. But if you never got any experience Parawinging, you can find yourself struggling a little bit more which is totally okay, but still the single skin is more made for entry levels. And newcomers to the sports.
You said that the wind range is bigger. You're probably talking about the high end, like the top end is probably where this really shines. If I were to be out with a 4 or even 5 meter single skin POW1, would I have to go with a 6.5 ZAP?
Yeah, that's also why we shifted a little bit of the sizing of the double skin. There is this general thinking that double skin don't generate power, which is wrong in my opinion. The only double skin that was on the market so far didn't have really inside pressure, so it was only half of the potential of the technology, let's say, and it was, in my opinion, not the easiest to handle. But now I got the experience myself, and I was quite impressed by how technical and how light power you could get out of it. Where now the sub 12-13 knots, or you can really notice a big difference in terms of power from a 5 and a 5 meter POW1, for example, with the equal sizing. On a single skin, and especially on the POW, the pumping will really provide you a lot of power, and you can really generate power from the pumping. Where on the double skin, as long as it's not blowing 15-16 knots, it's quite technical to find the power from the wing, but anything above, it's slightly less powerful. For example, my daily Parawings would be a 4 meter ZAP, which would take off somewhere around the 3.5 POW2, which doesn't exist, but in terms of power. And for example, the 6.5 generate as much power as the 5.5. It's a different power delivery. It's a different pumping technique, but this is a little bit the idea. So between 1 to 0.5 square meter less power.
Have you been on Lake sur la Plana?
I've been there a really long time ago for kite for racing, but not recently.
So would you recommend me going for a 5 or a 6.5 with the ZAP?
6.5, yeah.
6.5. Would you even recommend it for me? Because I'm an intermediate rider. Like, I'm not that good.
Yeah, it really depends what you put behind. I'm not that good. If you know how to steer it, you know, like the maneuvers in light wind on any kind of model is also quite technical.
Yeah.
And for me, the light wind parawinging requires a strong technical luggage, which in the one hand gives you direct access to more advanced product, kind of, the 5.5 is really light, and this is also one of the strengths of using a POW in the extremely light condition because of the weights. But if you really want to head up to the extremity of the lake, or if you really want to cruise or use smaller foil and really enjoy and glide up foiling, I would strongly recommend a ZAP. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna ask Stan if you can just borrow me one for that time of there. Have you also looked, because there are like hybrid ones as well? Have you looked at hybrid as well? And what do you think about those?
Yeah. Last summer, before going full on double skin concept, I've tried hybrid construction also. We have a hybrid kite, which is really popular and is a great design. So that was my start point. And I found myself in a place where basically it was not as easy and compact as a single skin to pack, because you still had a little bit of structure when you were killing it, when I was killing it. But I also found myself with still some flapping and stuff when I was riding. So, and not as strong upwind abilities than the full double skin which I had back then. So this is how we decided to go, single skin and double skin, and to really maximize the potential of both construction. It looks like 777, they are a good design of hybrids, but I'm really convinced that all of the people that are using these would be blown away by how easy, accessible, and performant the ZAP is, because you also, when you're killing it, you empty the air, and it's a little bit more fabric at the end of your hand, but at the same time you have a complete stiff structure. When you depower, there is no flapping, there is no deformation. You have a really clean airfoil, and therefore we decided to split in this way, these technologies.
Maybe just a last question about the Parawings before we can move on to wings or even kites. Now, you've seen other ideas, like from PPC, for example, the trimming part. So you have better low end that you can like trim to use a Parawing when you're flying. Or even there's a French company who has kind of a kite system where the leading edge goes through the bar. What do you think about those ideas? And have you like tried it or tested it yourself?
Yeah. So once again, when all of this Parawinging fever popped out, one of my and Flysurfer challenge was to find ways to be able to play with the power depower ratio, and how you basically deform the profile to either find a lot of power when you need it for takeoff, and be able to release all of this power when you're going on a straight line because you just don't need it. And we've explored a few direction, but the simplicity kind of always came through. I would be really curious to try some of the actual solution. For example, the SurfEars system, which you just mentioned. I would be really curious, but I feel like also one of my vision when I developed the POW2 and the ZAP, I wanted to find myself in a situation where I can ride 1.5 hours with no harness. This was really important. And I thought, I've tried some system with the harness, but in the end, when you need a harness to depower, I felt like it was going in the wrong direction of this philosophy that you barely need anything. You just go out there with the smallest package. You still need a big board, but I didn't really protect myself requiring a harness to be able to steer the Parawing. So the harness was not really an option. And in terms of mixer and handle configuration, I'm really looking forward to see the PPC solution in action, because it's it's easy, let's say, to have a technical solution on paper on laptop, but then what we really want to see is how it works on the field, and how much it's possible to use and adjust and switch from takeoff mode to flight mode and stuff like this. So I'm really looking forward, and we are also we keep exploring, we keep testing, and I'm sure it will still evolve. But for now, the bow line with the ability to play with the super precisely with the position of the B and the C when you depower, and to play with the handle length to be able to have the range on the brake is the right solution and the most compact solution at the moment.
Yeah, you don't want to make it too complicated. It looks like I'm getting both of these Parawings to test, so I'm really curious and I'm looking forward to test them. Although I must say, with every new thing, I'm a bit skeptical at first. And I think that's good to start with, to be skeptical and to not have too high of expectations, to not be let down later on. So we talked Parawing for almost an hour, which is, epic, and I really like it. I've been getting back into winging a bit because in these 5 to maybe 12 knots of wind, I think a wing is just better. I need less long gusts to get on foil with the Parawing. I need some gusts to make it fly, dancing up, and then get going. But with the wing, it's just you hold it and basically get out instantly. So that's why I got back into winging, and I started this series of comparing wings to find the one that I want to keep. And I used the Théo and the Avid from Flysurfer. Were you involved in those as well? Do you wing at all anymore, or just kite and Parawing? How's your winging going, man?
So to give you the full picture, I found myself helping the wing designer Maximilian at Flysurfer, testing some wing race prototypes. Because I have a strong race background, and I like new challenges, and I quite like winging, and I really believe in having winging being important in sailing clubs and to be able to give access to water to a lot of people. And the racing is one aspect which I really like to push and to find out. So I found myself testing racewing, and then Maximilian was designing the first AVID prototypes. So we ended up also covering the full AVID project together with all of the design phases, testing. So yeah, the AVID is also for the half part my baby, let's say. And I really believe that winging in extremely light wind is great because even when the wind completely disappears, you can just wait on your board holding on the wing in the air. The pumping allow yourself to generate a really high peak of energy for the takeoff, which is also super cool. And so I'm my relationship with winging at the moment is basically testing the different wings we have. So the AVID, now working on the AV2, the new Théo. We are about to release at the end of the year a race wing also.
Oh, nice.
And I really like to go winging with my actual Parawing board, really underpowered, and I really love how much you can play with the foil, and this foil connection, which you can find downwinding, is something that I found again when I'm winging underpowered, because you have to be really precise with your position. You can play with the small bumps. The maneuvers are really tricky, and I really like how precise you can and you have to be able to wing in marginal conditions.
What I really liked, especially about the Théo, I used the Théo 5.2 and the Avid 4.5 just because that's what Stan handed me to test. What I really liked about it was that the central strut was super long and the tips were quite short, so they didn't get in the way when pumping up. Like sometimes I touch the water when pumping, and that's just a problem. Maybe that's my lack, well, probably that's my lack of technique. Maybe you can tell me, because I don't know, what's the difference in like power or overall performance when you have a long central strut and small ears?
So basically, the main parameter you want to look for the takeoff is usually the absolute span of the wing. So the distance between both wingtip, which will be the main limitation at the moment with light wind winging, because we cannot make 10-meter high wing, otherwise you would have to hold the boom super high. So for example, when you're comparing a 4.5 over a bigger wing, you have to take also into consideration that the 4.5 will have a slightly less span, which is one strength because of the maniability. And basically the outline choice of having a lot of surface area in the center with having more chord and a longer strut over having more surface on the wingtip will provide you different flying characteristic when you're upfoiling. But for the takeoff, I think that the span of the wing is really crucial, not to limit yourself and find yourself with the lower wingtip hitting the water. Yeah.
But the tower has a huge span. It's super straight in the beginning, and then it goes over, and the tips are just really short. So the span is still there. It's just on the outside, there's not as much sail, basically.
Yeah. Yep. By span, I really mean the distance from both wingtip extremities. So in the end, even with the fixed span, I can play with the length of my strut, and I will be able to play with the outline and the aspect ratio I give to my wing. Yeah.
Because that was really comfortable. It got me on foils well, super nicely.
Yeah.
Your wings, I call it your wings. Flysurfer wings don't have windows though. Why is that?
We had windows in the past. We figured out that so first to make sample and to try material, we skipped them at one point to be able to really see better the tension and how the material were deforming and stuff like this. And then the more we asked our sales partner, and the more research we got into windows, where to put them, which material to use, because we also have a few material options. We figured that most of the people didn't really care, kind of, and this is why for this generation we didn't put any window, because we didn't have the demand from our sales partner in this regard. And the window material are always kind of a weak point, because
Is it heavier?
it's not really the absolute difference, because the panels are anyway quite small, but it's more that when you pack them, they can get deformed a lot easier than normal fabric. It gets crashed when it's salty or not clean. You anyway don't see anything, and yeah, they have a limitation. But yeah, that we at the moment don't have windows for the racing wing. We have to have window to comply the rules, and also for racing, it's quite important to have visibility. And for the fried wings, yeah, I don't know. Do you feel like you need windows, or what's your take on it?
You know, I'm kind of torn because I love parawinging because you see everything. And then with winging, you don't see anything at all. If you have windows, you see a little bit, but you still need to lift the wing before you jibe anyway. So if I have windows, I like it. If I don't have them, it's okay, basically. I would love a wing that is transparent. I know there was one. I don't know. I've never tested it, but like being able to see everything for me would be super important. But yeah, I just lift my wing. But I know people who don't. Like they go into a jibe, maybe hoping, maybe praying, I don't know, that no one's around. But I think it's super dangerous. And I really encourage everyone to just like lift your wing and take a big look around before you do any maneuvers.
Yeah. I mean, this is a different topic. Even if these people would have wing, I'm not sure if they would really bother themselves
true.
with using them. But yeah, it's interesting. And also to come back on the takeoff topic about the Tao, you were mentioning the span, which can be one limitation, but the takeoff easiness come from a lot of different aspects also, including the profile. And this is something which we really kept and wanted to keep in the DNA of the Tao, that this wing is just projecting you upfoiling, and you don't have to really find and play with the pumping technique. And we really want the Tao to be a wing that will generate lift to get you up foiling. Yeah.
You know, the Tau really was the best for me in low end, but not just because it pulls me up on foil quickly, but yes, the span is huge, but as the tips are super small, they have to tilt the wing a bit, so it, you know, it pulls me upwards, or the wing is pulled upwards a little bit. And as the ears, the tips are that short, they never touch the water, as with other wings that go back and have the trailing edge. I don't even know. Is it trailing edge as well with
Yeah.
the, okay. The trailing edge is kind of straight. Then the tips are in the water sometimes. So the Tau, the form factor of the Tau, I really liked a lot. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Um,
It's actually a lot of different parameters. The wingtip shape and the roundness and the way it finishes, and which will directly affect the behavior of the entire wing, because when you touch at the bottom there is a lot of momentum. This is also one key part of why the Tau is so forgiving and allow you to get foiling in the lightest wind. It's not what I want to say. It's not only about the span; it's the profile, the way the shape, the wingtip shape, basically, and the way it will be once hitting or even just sliding slightly on the wall. There are some wings that are really not forgiving, and you can just go 3 cm in the water and you will completely flip it over, which is something we really didn't want to have. Yeah.
I still thought for my use case, the 4.5 Avid had almost the same low end as the Tau, because it was lighter. And I think maybe due to parawinging, I'm a little active starter. Like I move the wing a lot and also pump the legs a lot. So I was almost able to get away with the 4.5 the same time that I got away with the Tau 5.2. But that was my summary. You can tell me if I was wrong, that if you're a more passive rider or a newbie who is not, doesn't pump that well, maybe, wait until get pulled up on foil, then the Tau is better. What do you reckon?
I follow you 100% in this direction. This is the main split basically of the two models. Is basically the Tau is the wing made for people that want the wing to put them up on foil. It's really intuitive the way the power is generated when you shit in and stuff. It's really easy, intuitive. Where on the Avid, it's a wing made to fly dynamic, so the pumping will generate a lot of power. If you're just standing on your board waiting, nothing will happen, or a little bit less than on the Tau.
Yeah.
But if you're pumping it, you will generate more power. And same goes when you're up foiling on the Tau. On a straight line, it will find its place in the power zone quite automatically. And once again, you can be passive, and you should not expect much active positioning, kind of, where the Avid, you can just put it wherever you like. And these were really the differences and the split which we wanted to bring into the two different models. Yeah.
All right. That's good. Then I wasn't completely wrong, which is always great. I'm
Yeah.
exposing myself, having no idea on like engineering or how these things are built. So that's good. Just a last question, because we're in over an hour already, and you have other things to do. Thanks again so much for taking your time again. Just I used to windsurf when I was little, and then I started kiting eventually, but always with tube kites. I haven't kited in, I don't know, maybe 4 years now. But I'm looking at kiters and sometimes think maybe I should go back for just 1 or 2 sessions now as I've progressed a little bit in foiling. Which kite should I go with from your range?
It's always the same. I think it really depends on how you want to use it, where you want to
On
use
Lake
it.
Silvaplana.
And
Let's say on Lake Silvaplana. Yeah.
in Lake Silvaplana, if you know how to kite, even without being an expert, but you know how to get going on your board, how to just steer the kite, I would recommend you to go for the sole, which is the foil kite. So this is a little bit like the ZAP, but the linkage is closed. So on the sole, you get the air that goes in the wing, and the wing gets pressurized. But if you crush it in the water, for example, the air will stay in the wing.
Nice.
So you can relaunch and you can walk your kite out of the water. This is really stable. This is like the foil kite technology is a lot lighter and will allow you to find power in the smoothest way in the light wind, where tube kites, when the wind is a little bit gusty and light, they tend to they are quite heavy, and with the way they generate lift, it's not as fluid in the air. It doesn't provide as much power, and it's just not as smooth. If you would tell me you want to go in 40 knots of wind, I would tell you something completely different. But for Silvaplana, I would really encourage you to get close to Stan to have a little bit of a solo experience. And this is something really magic also about kiting. Going in the lightest wind is just so easy. You don't have to fight. Another approach, which I also experiment with some of the pro wingers, is to use your wing or Parawing kit board and go with the hybrid, which is our school kite. It's really really intuitive. It will absorb a lot of mistake, and you're just there standing on your board like usual, but instead of having a wing boom, you just have a kite bar, and this will get you up foiling the easiest. But yeah, that would be the two options: either twin tipping on a sole, either using your foil and using a hybrid to get you foiling.
All right, that is nice. Because I think I'm ready to give it another shot for a couple of
Nice.
sessions. That's really cool. Well, Théo, is there anything else you want to address? Because we're in over an hour. I mean, we can always go for a second run sometime soon, but I think our listeners maybe had enough. Is there anything else you want to like tell the world that we forgot to mention?
No, not really. Thank you very much, Matt, for interesting yourself in my work and our product at Flysurfer. And I hope at one point we can connect and share a good session together.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. All right. Have a good one.
See you. Have a good day. Bye.